100 years ago, the Panama Canal changed the face of international trade. It took more than 40 years to build this iconic canal, and it's widely considered to be one of the most incredible engineering accomplishments in U.S. history. Workers had to literally dig out the chunk of earth that connects Central and South America. Today, we'll take you inside this modern marvel. It's 110 feet wide.
On either side, that clearance to go through, which is very tight.
51 miles long.
The whole crossing, it's about 8 to 10 hours.
And often called the eighth wonder of the world. It's such an incredible structure. The Panama Canal, a waterway carved through the Central American country of Panama, generating billions of dollars every year in international trade, and used to connect 160 countries and 1,700 ports around the world. It's a hydro-powered elevator, lifting ships from sea level up 85 vertical feet and back down again. A design way ahead of its time.
We connect the 2 oceans but 3 continents. We provide very reliable 24-hour-a-day service. I mean, we never stop.
The ships have just inches to spare on each side, so precision is key.
Having an accident is not just that we rub it or scrape it. No, we're talking about delays in the entire transit of other vessels that are waiting to go through.
Delays that are costly. The ships have to stay perfectly centered, so trolleys guide them with steel ropes.
This is the only canal in the world that will use this type of equipment.
And how much weight can each rope pull?
We're talking about some of these 35 tons or 35,000 pounds.
Wow.
Each.
The canal has 3 chambers on each side. Massive gates, called locks, control the flow of water. When a ship enters the canal, water from the lake is pumped into the chamber, raising the ship to the next level. The process is repeated until the ship reaches lake level, connecting trade from the east to the west. Ships used to have to sail thousands of miles around South America, but in 1879, engineers took their first shot at building a faster route through the Panamanian jungle. Although the canal is a historic American landmark, it's actually the French that tried to build it first. But they were plagued with tropical diseases like malaria and yellow fever, and more than 20,000 construction workers died. So the Canal Authority decided to put up this monument to honor those who lost their lives. The French ultimately gave up the project, and the United States took over in 1903. Using the canal for the military.
Basically, it was to have control of the fleets on the Atlantic and the Pacific. So World War I, the U.S. increased their military fleet and had more on either side and was able to control, of course, all the passage of vessels going from one ocean to the other.
But in order to build the canal, the U.S. had to negotiate with Colombia. It was a game of political chess. Colombia owned the land, but was a nation divided. Rebels in the north wanted to separate from the south, and were willing to sell the U.S. a strip of land to build the canal. So, the U.S. helped the North create its own country by sending a naval blockade to the area, and Panama was born.
We were able to separate, and when we finally had this done, the U.S. was able to go ahead and build that canal.
10 years later, the canal was up and running, but the U.S. presence in Panama became a source of heated controversy, most of it centered around the canal zone. Panama wanted the canal back, and after years of pressure, the U.S. finally agreed to a deal to turn over the zone in the year 2000. With full control, Panama changed the waterway from a military operation to one that could boost business, allowing cargo ships to pass through and pay a toll. The ships behind me are called Panamax ships, and these ships carry cargo to and from the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans. More than 13,000 of them pass through these gates every year. Panama's economy skyrocketed, creating record economic growth and building up the city's impressive skyline.
Now, the city of Panama is developing in both sides of the canal with a significant speed. That didn't happen before.
You have a country that went from not very much to a country that's competing worldwide.
But the handover also left some parts of the country frozen in time. All these buildings are for sale.
Yeah, and empty.
Nobody's
buying them.
So this is basically kind of like some parts of ghost town. Today, about 1/3 of Panamanians live in poverty, and almost no one can afford to buy the American buildings left behind. So when they handed over the canal, this
is what happened to a lot of these homes.
What happened is that the Republic of Panama inherited a lot of buildings, houses, parks, entire cities that they didn't know what to do.
Instead, they're falling apart.
This is one of the houses on an Air Force base that was previously occupied by Americans, and you can see it's just been left here to decay. Dirt on the floors, a lot of broken glass, holes in the ceilings and the walls, exposed wires.
Two areas developed close by, one by the other. You could see across. One was frozen in time, the other was developing.
From past to present day, the canal has shaped the country of Panama, some of it for the better, other parts for the worse. But one thing is certain.
Panamanian people are very aware of the importance of the canal, and they defend it.
And of course, our benefit to become a nation came from the building of the Panama Canal.
Since the canal was handed back to the country of Panama, it's brought in billions of dollars in revenue. Tomorrow, we'll take a look at how this canal is trying to stay relevant 100 years later and the challenges it faces ahead.
The canal, opened in 1914, has changed international trade. And 100 years later, it's looking to do it again.
This waterway will allow ships that carry 3 times the amount of cargo as the ships that pass through the current canal, and that means big business for the country of Panama.
Just next to the old canal, a $5.3 billion project is in full swing to build another, even bigger canal. It's to handle newer cargo ships, floating giants that are too big to go through the current canal. Francisco Miguez is the Executive Vice President of Finance and Administration for the Canal Authority. He says that while it's a big investment, the new canal could also mean big money for Panama.
$5.3 billion.
Correct.
That's a lot of money.
Yes.
What's the return going to be, or what do you anticipate it to be?
It's a long-term investment that we're doing, and we plan to be here for several more centuries. So we're going to continue investing.
It's an investment that's expected to pay off. The current canal brings in an annual $1 billion to the country. But with the new canal up and running, experts say the number will double, maybe even triple. That has fueled a business boom for the country, and you don't have to look far to recognize it. Last year, the U.S. economy grew at 1.9%. But economic growth in Panama was about 4 times higher, at 8.4%, making it the fastest growing economy in Central America. The benefits of the canal are easy to see.
You got new roads, you got a metro system, you got a new bus system, you got all these changes that you also put into jobs that before you didn't need.
But seeing the project through to the finish has been a different story. The launch of the new canal has been delayed twice since it began in 2007.
That has caused us damage in terms of not being able to open for commercial business for the bigger vessels on time.
And every delay means ships are paying money to use other routes. Competition for the Panamanian waterway. One thing is for sure. Everyone is looking to cash in on the commercial megaships. North in Nicaragua, plans are underway for the creation of a $40 billion canal to connect the Atlantic to the Pacific. And last month, Egypt announced an expansion of the Suez Canal, set to be finished in 2023. For Panama, it's an all-out race to finish their canal first, to be the most attractive route for ships. But a project of this scale requires a lot of hands on deck and a lot of time.
So we raised the vessel from the ocean.
We got a close-up look at this technological marvel.
We are about to tour the expansion site.
The canal boasts an impressive design, with state-of-the-art locks weighing 4 million pounds each.
Behind me is this nook, and this is where they're going to install the new gates that allow water levels to rise and fall as ships enter and exit the new canal. Up we go.
The 110-foot walls are built to last.
These walls are built so well that the Canal Authority expects them to last for at least 100 years.
And inside the chambers,
So all the water that's inside is going to fill up out in the canal.
52 million gallons of water will pass through these tunnels each time a ship goes through the new canal. That's enough water to fill almost 80 Olympic-sized pools. Miguez sees the new canal as a new beginning and a rising star for Panama and its people.
I see that Panama has then a second opportunity for jumpstart, for growth. This is a society and a country that has a lot of stuff to improve. But we are significantly much better than we were 5-6 years ago before we started this project.
Tom Hansen, Channel 1 News.
Let's go to the other areas,
This is Carlos,
to the tennis court.
and this is Luis.
So up here is where you live?
Two young people living just a few miles from each other, but their lives are worlds apart. They live in a country divided between American influence and Panamanian heritage, a big city and bright lights on one hand and extreme poverty on the other, the haves and the have-nots.
Ahí es donde les digo.
Where I live, the wealth distribution is poorly made and poorly developed.
And at the center of it all, the Panama Canal. The canals, both old and new, have created a business boom for the country. But it's not being seen on some of the streets of Panama. All of the money brought in goes straight to the Panamanian treasury. The government then decides where the money will go. But many people accuse the government of being corrupt and say the money isn't spread out evenly, creating an enormous wealth gap.
So this is your house?
Yes.
Su casa?
Sí.
Luis lives in San Miguelito, one of the poorest areas of Panama. It's a slum in the heart of a thriving city.
De los ingresos eso no es tan.
Based on revenue, it's not fair because it hasn't reached the more humble neighborhoods or the less important neighborhoods like San Miguelito or various other provinces in Panama.
De Panamá.
The riches coming in seem out of reach, and basic necessities like electricity and running water can be hard to come by.
Muchas comunidades.
There are many communities within San Miguelito that have to use wells because there's no running water.
Streets are also overgrown.
So this is supposed to be a street.
El gobierno.
The government does not create streets so that we can walk to move around in our community.
And without sewers, many people get sick from dangerous diseases.
Luis is telling me that this water here is highly contaminated with sewage, and you can also see all the trash that's floating down the waterway. And oftentimes when it rains, which is 9 months out of the year, kids will play in this water and they'll get really sick.
His community has been calling on the Panamanian government to fix the problems in his neighborhood for years, but so far, he says barely anything has been done. Panama has the fastest growing economy in the Western Hemisphere, but more than half of the country's young people, like Luis, live below the poverty line, the least amount of money someone needs to afford basic necessities.
En mi comunidad todavía no veo los beneficios.
In my community, I still don't see the tangible or visible benefits of the Panama Canal. But in certain areas, the government has done it, and it's noticeable.
Se ha observado.
He's talking about here, and here, and here. In these areas, everywhere you look, there's construction and expansion.
Big companies are coming in to demolish houses like these in order to make room for skyscrapers like those.
The poor say they're being pushed out, and foreigners, like Carlos and his family, are moving in.
So this is your house.
Yes, this is my house.
How many rooms do you have?
I have 3 rooms. If you count the one of the service lady, we have 4.
Carlos moved here to this gated community from nearby Venezuela, part of a bigger trend in the country. Wealthy immigrants like him are coming to Panama, and communities like this one are popping up everywhere.
So you got a lot of influx of foreign direct investment into Panama in the last 7 years, and that has fueled the growth.
Carlos says he has the canal to thank for the opportunities given to him and his family.
I had the opportunity to study. I had the opportunity to gain money. I had the opportunity to got everything. Why a person that lives in San Miguelito can do that if they are like living here in Panama?
But for Luis, life in San Miguelito isn't the same.
Mientras pago la universidad.
I pay for school, I pay for electricity, I pay for cable and food. The money I have is not enough.
No alcanza.
Even with a full-time job and a college degree, he's just managing to get by. He says money from the canal would really help his community, but the Canal Authority says deciding where the money goes is out of their hands and that it's up to the Panamanian government to make a change. In the meantime, all Luis and his community can do is wait and hope that the new canal will make a better life for everybody someday. Tom Hansen, Channel 1 News.